Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us as the Oakland Museum of California celebrates 26 years of the Day of the Dead celebration. This year, the Day of the Dead celebration is being done virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Micaela Mariscal, and along with Chrissy Cano, we are the co-chairs of the Day of the Dead committee this year. We are here today at the beautiful home of Bea Carrillo Hocker, and she is sharing with us her ofrenda. She's going to be talking with Isabela Perez, and they're going to be having a conversation that they will be sharing with us.
Welcome to my home. My name is Bea Carrillo Hocker, and I'm a member of the Oakland Museum's Dia de los Muertos Committee, or Day of the Dead Committee. And with me here is Isabela Perez, and so I'm glad that she could come and be part of this presentation. So welcome, and why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you for having me. Hi, my name is Isabela Perez. I'm 14. I'm a sophomore in high school, and I'm the youngest member of the Dia de los Muertos Committee in the Oakland Museum of California. Why don't you tell me about the ofrenda?
I'd be very happy to do that. It's got an interesting story behind it. The ofrenda, which is actually an offering altar for the dead, and it's connected to a very important feast. It's primarily Mexican in origin, and it is an offering altar for the dead that is part of the Dia de los Muertos feast that occurs annually from the end of October through November 2nd. And it's also part of an essential rite of this celebration. Families erect altars in their homes or over graves to honor their dead. And on this altar, they place all sorts of gifts, as you can see from my ofrenda. And they do this with the hope that this will entice their beloved dead to visit their living families. But I'm sure there's many of us that put offerings on the altar with the thought that, and the hope that perhaps the deceased will be aware of the gifts and of the care for them. So this actually feast is a very ancient one because its origins have been traced all the way to pre-Hispanic time. So they're very ancient tradition.
How do we know this tradition existed before the Spanish conquistadores?
That's a good question. And the reason we know is because when the missionaries came to the New World, because they thought they wanted to gain new souls for the Christian faith, but they understood it was important that they had to learn about these traditions that they had, especially the funerary rites. So all their observations were recorded in chronicles, and these chronicles survived to present times. And what they describe in there is that they actually constructed structures, shrines, called shrines, and they would place the images of their dead on these shrines and offer them incense and food. And so this is how we know that they actually existed.
Why were ofrendas allowed to continue if missionaries were trying to convert the native people to the Christian faith?
Well, what they realized in time is that these funerary rites were so important to the native people, that was part of their worldview and of their religious beliefs, that they decided that they would allow them to openly construct these ofrendas, but they had to coincide with the Christian feasts of the dead, which were on November 1st and 2nd, and these were the feasts of All Saints and of All Souls Days. So that's how these ofrendas now are set up during those days.
There are lots of items on the ofrenda. Do these items have any particular meaning?
Yes, each one has some meaning, but I kind of give you a general kind of overview. Okay, we have the Christian images, we have the incense, and then we have the incense and the candles. And these connect to the supernatural realm, the sacred. Now, if you think about the photos and the food and drink that are placed with them, that obviously suggests that there's a belief that there is an afterlife. So we see on my altar all these marigolds, and in Mexico they're called the cempasúchil. I almost forgot that. The cempasúchil. And these are actually an ancient tradition because it was considered the sacred flower of the dead. And so in this altar, you see that that's one influence that didn't change. So then there are breads on the altar, and if they're in the shape of a human form, that they represent the dead. But the overall meaning of the total ofrenda is that it's a connecting point between life, death, and rebirth. But the other thing that's very obvious about these ofrendas is that, think about it, is that it is believed that the bond for family is so important that it extends into death. So those are the overall meanings of the things that you see on my ofrenda. I've talked a lot about the ofrendas, and now I'm curious. I'm wondering if you have had experiences related to Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, I've had lots of experience with Dia de los Muertos. My mom's Nicaraguense and my dad's Mexican American, and she always prioritized teaching me about my culture. So she learned a lot about Mexican culture. And since preschool, she's been teaching at my school to all the kids about Dia de los Muertos. We would make a big altar next to the office. My mom, my tia Isabela, and I. And all the students would submit work to put on the altar.
Oh, beautiful.
And 3 years ago, she was invited to represent her agency in the OMCA Dia de los Muertos celebration. And ever since then, I've been working with her on the altares. And now I'm in the DMC, Dia de los Muertos Committee.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear how experienced you've had already with Dia de los Muertos.
Thank you again for joining us as we celebrate the Day of the Dead celebration. We hope to welcome you in person next year as we celebrate at the Oakland Museum of California. Muchas gracias.